This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hey, this is Bashley Bones, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with Bashley Bones. Now, real talk here for a minute. There was an issue with the audio with Bashley in the first couple minutes of the interview. For whatever reason, the audio did not pick up on that first question. So we're going to pick up where the audio did finally catch back up. The first question I asked her was about competing for the NWA for the first time. And you can follow Bashley on Instagram as well. The links to her social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Now, taking it back to when the interview picks up with Bashley. Enjoy. And we apologize for the technical issues on our side of things for this particular interview.
This match in Chicago, opening up for NWA. So it was wild and just an experience and a great opportunity. I feel like a lot of my opportunities came before I was ready for them. So that's one of the things I go back on. But it's been a wild ride already, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
What do you mean when you say these opportunity comes when you don't feel like you're ready for them?
I feel I kind of had a lot of opportunities and connections because of where I trained and the people I knew and got into the business with. So I don't feel like I feel like I needed more time, now that I've been wrestling and training for almost 5 years, those opportunities might have done more for me now, if that makes sense. I might have gotten somewhere had they came a little bit later. But you know how it is. It's life. That things happen for a reason.
It sounds like it was definitely a very memorable day for you, to say the least.
Oh, it certainly was. Like, I can just go back and, absolutely picture it.
Well, I almost never do this, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but your first match was for OVW, and you teamed with Freya the Slayer, correct?
It wasn't my first match ever, but I did have a match at OVW, a tag team match with Freya, yes.
Can you tell us about that experience? Obviously, Freya, big name. You were going up against respected names on the indies as well.
Yeah, it was a great experience. One of those places that when you're up and coming around this area, you should definitely just dip in if you can and get that experience, because they put on a really good show, and it was organized, and I got to meet a lot of people and hear Al talk about some things and, get basically advice from him from, just being there, from what he talked to his crew about before and after the show. And it was one of those really great experiences. I also did the first ever women's Rumble for OVW. I participated in that. And it was pretty fun, but I was not in there for a very long time.
That was the one with Angelina Love in it, correct?
Yes, I believe she ended up winning that one.
I mean, there was a lot of big names in that Rumble.
It was, yeah, and the women's locker room was insane. Like, I know, she was there. Now, I remember her being in the locker room. It was crowded and overwhelming, but a lot of fun.
I can imagine. I mean, Angelina Love, Lindsay Snow, Charlie Krull, just to name a few that was actually in that Rumble.
Mhm.
And OVW, obviously, an established name in pro wrestling. Obviously not a lot of first to go around as of now. So what did it mean to you to be in the first ever Rumble for OVW?
I'd say it didn't mean as much then as it does now, to be honest. It was just kind of something I got the opportunity to do then. And I didn't know like how big it was, if that makes sense, or how big OVW was going to become again. Because I feel like they kind of, weren't such a huge name for a little while, and now they're back up on top again.
Right. Well, going on the other side of pro wrestling, you did quite a bit for TNA during the pandemic. You did extra work. I believe you were the timekeeper. Can you tell us about how that all came about and that experience during that time?
Sure. So I began training with Tried and True. It was Crimson's company, and the trainers are Jeremiah Plunkett and Tom Latimer, who are both still in NWA currently. So I basically started there and ended up with just a lot of good connections. So with TNA, they were Impact at the time. They borrowed our show ring, Tried and Trues, or, rented out, whatever. And they also asked for a crew. So us trainees were able to be on the crew for Impact, and it was awesome. And then it ended up that they basically just kept me on, and then I kept kind of acquiring, a bigger and better job every time I went. I got to do a lot of fun extra stuff, and was asked to come and do things like they would call and specify. I was able to come and do something, and it was a really fun time.
I believe you were a bartender for James Storm.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was one, is it Raj? No, Chris Bay. Sorry, Raj was in it. It was a Chris Bay, and one of our other Tried and True trainees at the time. We got to do a little clip. And then there's some other behind the scenes stuff I got to do that was a lot of fun. But let's see, Bridesmaid for Sue Young, that was a good time. I love horror and makeup and costumes and everything themed like that. That's my thing. So getting to be a bridesmaid for Sue Young was a really fun day.
I mean, as much as it's an awesome experience, doing that. I can imagine that it wasn't a big learning experience having all those big names around you. No,
A big what experience?
a big learning experience.
Oh, for sure. You get to learn the business, TV, um, everything from the ground up. So I literally sometimes, I think like I know I've learned every kind of aspect, ins and outs of like running a show now. And just like it humanizes everybody though too. A lot of big names that I grew up watching, um, I got to meet and interact with, and it was a lot of really good experiences.
Definitely. Kind of going back to NWA, obviously, you were trained by Crimson and Thomas Latimer. Was that kind of a full circle moment to actually get to compete for NWA, knowing how closely associated they are to the company?
Yeah, it definitely was. I know that was always kind of the end result, was that I might get that opportunity.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I'm getting over a cold and like I'm just feeling a little bit like my throat got like I have to cough.
No worries, no worries. I cough all the time on this on the show. You're completely fine.
All right, I think it was about to get me there, but it was definitely something, getting to finally have an opportunity on the NWA. It was an experience I worked for a really long time.
And you're also the MSWA champion as well. I believe over 900 days, no?
Yeah, that title I have had for a while. So I honestly can't tell you off the top of my head how many days it's been. My good buddy Dustin Wolf, now he keeps track of all that for me, and he'd be able to tell you down to like the day.
I mean, what did it mean to you to capture that championship?
It was my first one, and so I was surprised about it, but also just kind of overwhelmed. And I also have a lot of fun when I go there. It's, Tennessee, where I started training and know a lot of people, so it's always a fun time.
Is that a moment you took in the moment, or is that something that kind of sets in afterwards? Like, wow, I did this.
Probably afterwards, like that drive home when you're just thinking about everything, and it's definitely, nostalgic. You just think about it and go over it in your head.
I gotcha. Alright. Can you tell us about your experience wrestling Ari Alexander?
Ari is one of those people that I'm always, happy to work with. So if I see I'm up against Ari, then I'm in. I'm ready for it. She's a very technical, well-trained wrestler too. So I also felt safe working with her, and that's something that's really important, because that's not always how it is when you show up at some of these indie shows, especially as a lady wrestler.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate getting to work with somebody with her experience, and I feel safe working with her.
Now, arguably the biggest match you've had as of now was against one Leva Bates, Blue Pants. But
Oh, that was fun. Yeah.
it was as Mikasen Anchorman from Attack on Titan, and I believe Leva was Annie Lionheart.
Yeah. So the funniest thing about that was, so it's a, customs match. So then fans arranged the match. And we had to wear wigs. And I definitely should have consulted Leva on properly putting on a wig, because I'm a costumer, so I thought I knew, put my wig on as best as I could, but it was not staying on about, I don't know, maybe like a minute or two in. It was not long before that thing started to come off. So she grabbed me at one point and was like, threw me out of the ring, go fix your wig. But apparently, so Leva learned how to put her wigs on for wrestling and cosplay and everything from drag queens. So she knows how to get those on so they don't come off.
I gotcha.
It was a lot of fun, though, and she's a really sweet person. It was fun getting to meet her and talk to her.
That was for Liberty Pro, correct?
I'm sorry?
That was for Liberty Pro, correct?
No, it was actually Slammin' Ladies.
Okay. Well,
they run out of Florida. It's Lexi Fife, her company.
Okay. Usually those custom matches aren't in front of crowds.
No, it's something the customer gets, or the fan, they get to basically write a script for you. It's a lot of fun.
How do you...
It's a lot different. It's a lot different than being, on a wrestling show.
That's what I was going to ask. How do you, because obviously, a big component of pro wrestling is the crowd. So how is it competing, for no crowd in, a match compared to, obviously having the crowd?
I feel like, so I did a lot of theater and things like that. And, when you're in your practice space, when you're practicing, you just still put on a great show as if there's a crowd there. So that's how my mind always was in it, that I would almost forget there wasn't a crowd. Okay. Definitely, when I'm at a live show, there's certain times that the crowd can just help so much. But at the same time, I can do a match with no crowd and just almost put them there. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. All right. I think it's time for Bashley's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Yeah, I could tell you one that was it was funny and kind of embarrassing for me. So this was early on in my career, and I worked at a little company in Alabama. I can remember the name. It's Rocket. I cannot remember the promotion. I'm sorry. I'll have to look it up later. But the promoter asked me to give a wrestler a ride back to Nashville on the way because I would go right through it. So I was early on, like I said, so I was okay, yeah, sure. Not knowing who I was going to who was going to be getting in my car, and so it was a little bit, I was a little bit scared at first, but I agreed, It ended up being Spencer Slade, who actually works with the NWA now.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know who he is?
Yes.
Okay, he's a really great guy. But so he gets in my car and I wear contacts. I like to take my contacts off after wrestling on my drive home and put on my glasses because it's so much more comfortable. You know, usually it's like a long drive home and I don't want dry eyes. Well, I took off my contacts without making sure I had my glasses, disposable contacts, and was basically like blind.
Oh my God.
And I had to drive this guy from like Alabama to Nashville. It was a couple hours, you know, in the boonies in the middle of nowhere. But thankfully I did not actually have to drive him blind. So I ended up searching my car and finding another set of contacts to put on. But then I kept having like an issue with one of them and couldn't like see good. So I had to have him help me like with directions and street names almost the whole way. But we made it like safely. We did not die. So that was a pretty good time. And like Spencer was a great like, you know, conversation. And sometimes it's nice to have somebody in the car like to keep you awake and just alert, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that was a good one.
All right. Definitely a memorable car ride.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to drive this poor guy 2 hours. Like, I cannot see we're in the middle of nowhere. But thankfully, you know, I got us to Nashville and then myself home.
Now, kind of a wrestling question, kind of not. You are, you know, a costumer as well. You are able to make your gear, other people's gear. When did you first start sewing?
I have actually been sewing since I can remember. I had a great grandma who she had like an old button box and taught me how to, you know, sew little things. Like I started out with doll clothes. I had an aunt who was super crafty and taught me how to use my first machine. And then I did costume and makeup all through like middle school, high school. So, you know, just forever. And it definitely dawned on me when I first started training, hey, I can make my own wrestling gear. So I started with my own, and then the guys that I trained with were all like, who did your gear? How'd you get gear so fast? And I was like, I made it. And they were like, you didn't tell us you could sew, like, excuse me. So then from that point on, I had business. I actually really liked it when I was kind of sticking with just, you know, my close circle. I branched out this past year and it got a little rough. But right now I am just kind of taking time for myself. I haven't been doing a lot of custom gear. I might get back to it at some point because I definitely know it's a good skill to have and there's not a lot of gear makers out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There's fewer and fewer, kind of is dwindling. A lot of the big companies will still them up, I'll notice too.
Well,
like some of my fellow costumer friends I know have gotten good jobs with bigger companies.
What has been your favorite gear that you've made so far?
I made a really cool jacket for Adrian Alexander, and that was like one of my favorite pieces that I hadn't ever made anything that intricate from scratch. You know, I made the whole jacket and it came out really nice. It was kind of like Prince Eric versus Seth versus Cody Rhodes, like inspired, and it came out really cool. And then another female set that off the top of my head was for Riley Rocket. not sure if that's still what wrestling name she's using, but at the time she was Riley Rocket, and she actually sent me the design. So I'm not sure if it was her own, but I made the gear based off the design, and she wore it to WrestleCade, and it came out really nice. It was a fun idea. It was a good design to work with.
That's awesome. Riley, friend of the show, interviewed her a while back ago.
Yep.
What is something you'd like to make but haven't been able to for whatever reason?
So I am actually trying to lean more, well, not more, but I want to do like Renaissance stuff. That's what I've been getting into lately, like corsets, and I got an industrial machine, and am learning how to sew on leather and do leather making stuff. So I feel like costuming is my end game, you know. Honestly, probably next year I might not wrestle much longer past that, but costuming I could do forever. So I feel like a mix of like wrestling and the Renaissance costume world is what I want to, you know, get into.
Okay, so we'll be seeing Bashley at Renaissance Fair soon?
Yeah. So currently I actually fell into this really fun job, and so my life has gotten busy, and so wrestling's kind of on the back burner. I am an obstacle course coach for kids at USA Ninja Challenge. So that's what I'm doing currently, and then I kind of just do, you know, sewing right now is like on the side, is my like side hustle or fun stuff I want to do.
I gotcha. Well, I mean, another interesting, weird thing that you were able to sew was you actually made mittens for koalas?
Oh yeah, you're on my Instagram. So yeah, so I saw the thing for, I thought it was after like a bad fire that Australia had, and they had a lot of koalas who were recovering in medical facilities, and their paws had been burned. So they had to put some kind of ointment on them and keep them, you know, moisturized. And so they needed like just super basic cotton with some yarn mittens to tie on. So that was something like I made a bunch and like milled out.
I can imagine that would be an interesting experience, no?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like you see it and you're like, hey, that's something I know I can help with. So why not spend an afternoon making some koala mittens?
Right. You mentioned it. You're a ninja coach. How
Yeah.
did that kind of come about, and what has that experience been like?
So I end up in the craziest thing. Like, you know, I don't set out to do these things. I didn't set out to start wrestling. It just kind of, they find me. So I was doing brand ambassador work, kind of on the side with wrestling and costuming, here and there, you know, my weekends. But my now husband and I moved from Tennessee to Ohio. We're near Cincinnati. And so I was searching out other things to do up here. I definitely am a person who always has like a bunch of sources of income, you know, like I had a business professor who taught me multiple streams of income, and I've always followed that. So I lost a few jobs that I had in Tennessee moving up here, and was searching out something I could do during the week, you know, that was not weekends, and stumbled across USA Ninja Challenge that was opening it up. It's literally like 12 minutes from me. And so I ended up being a part-time ninja coach. Loved it. You know, found out like I'm really good at a lot of the stuff. I can definitely do it and coach it. I really enjoy working with kids. I don't have kids of my own, so I feel like it's almost one of those things where like I can go to work and have patience and deal with kids because I come home to my nice quiet house and my dog, you know. But I ended up getting the job as the head coach manager there a few months ago. So my life got super busy.
What's your favorite obstacle to do?
I actually love walking on the barrels. The balance stuff is one of my favorite things.
I can't imagine that hasn't helped you with pro wrestling, no?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's one of the, like, it helps me stay in shape. I don't even currently have a gym membership because every day I go to work, and I'm there, 5 days a week, I'm getting an awesome workout, climbing, jumping, I lead stretches with the kids. Like I tend to do kind of a yoga stretch, because that's where a lot of my knowledge and background is and what I've learned and done in life. So all of that helps.
Right. That being said, are we going to see you on Ninja Warrior?
Probably not. So I think I'm kind of past the prime for Ninja Warrior. But you definitely might see some of the kids I train on Ninja Warrior. That is a fact.
I wouldn't necessarily say past your prime. There's literally people that are like 60, 70, 80 that go on Ninja Warrior.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I haven't watched the show that often to know, the ones I've seen are typically younger people.
I mean, obviously, yeah. But there are people that are, some of their moms and dads compete with them as well.
It's one of those things, though. I don't feel like I'm, well-rounded at it. I'm really good at certain things, and then others, not so much. Like lache bars and things where I have to, use my shoulders, because I do have, a bit of an old shoulder injury from wrestling, and so I don't know. It's iffy, though. You really never know where you're going to see me, so I'm not going to say it's totally out.
Well, having spoken to people that actually have competed on Ninja Warrior, it's not the obstacle course that gets you, it's the wait time that gets you.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that I interviewed, 13 hours waiting to actually compete.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when
See, I would just have to, be doing yoga and meditating and reading a book and taking a little nap.
And they were like, okay, if you get to this point in the obstacles, you'll go to the next stage. And he said, well, I'm going to wipe out on the obstacle before that, because I'm coming back. But yeah, Ninja Warrior and wrestling kind of go hand in hand at this point, I think.
So I never would have thought how much they do. There's certain things I teach the kids that are wrestling. I mean, what I learned, in training, basically taking a wrestling bump on the mat, is almost exactly like the safety fall we teach. So I can go off the lache and just let myself go in midair and fall and not be hurt, because I know how to fall. And so that was something that came super natural to me as far as being able to teach it. So I was like, hey, I know this.
Right. And, another interesting physical thing that you've done is roller derby.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't necessarily get talked about that much in media and culture nowadays. How did doing roller derby help you in pro wrestling?
Well, It allowed me to not be afraid of contact. I definitely wasn't like trying to jump out of the way of anybody, you know, I was fine with taking contact. It also prepared my body because I was a lot stronger than I had been the 7 years before I started playing derby. I had always been really skinny and just very small. So derby helped me gain weight and muscle. So then I was more ready for wrestling.
How do you find yourself in these, you know, these unique opportunities like roller derby, pro
like
wrestling?
I said, they literally just find me. So with roller derby, I had a little boutique in a small town in California, and some girls came in asking about hanging flyers, and I was like, wait a minute, what is this about? I'm a really good skater. So I had to go to, you know, I checked out About is what they're called, and I was in love. But when I started derby, it was still like, you know, costumes, themed bouts, like the fishnets and makeup, and like now it's morphed into a very serious like sport, you know.
Right.
And that's cool, but it's not what it was about and what appealed to me at the time. But literally, yeah, I just, you know, they just popped into my shop, and then I was like, what is this about? And then 7 years later, you know, and then I made the choice to stop playing derby and switch over to wrestling because there just wasn't enough time. My body was not going to be able to take both.
Right.
And wrestling. So yeah, I've told this story before. So I was just driving down the road, coming home from like Nashville, driving back to Clarksville where I lived at the time. And I heard an ad on the radio for Tried and True Pro Wrestling looking for bombshell promoter girls. And I was like, I love wrestling. I could be a promoter girl. And I did their little search, ended up being one of the girls. They found out that I did derby, and it was kind of over from there. Like, you know, they were like, well, you know, we have a training facility, we have a school.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute, I can do this? Like, you know, I never thought about that, but then I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'm in.
Has, you know, obviously, you know, these are interesting and unique opportunities that fell into your lap. Has there been any other type of opportunity like this that has fallen into your lap? Like, you're like, no, I'm not doing that?
Like something I totally turned down?
Yes.
Well, this is a fun little story. I don't get into this too much. So back when I was in college, I was like 19. I got into being an assistant for a girl who was a porn star.
Okay.
And I did have like one of the companies like approach me at the time, you know, just being out and about with her. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. Not what I want to do. Not going that route.
Okay.
So that was one that I was like, nope,
Yeah. I get that.
But I did drive this girl around for, you know, the better part of like 6 months, and that was a wild experience. Try to keep her on track and get her places on time, and oh wow.
I gotcha. All right. Can you tell us about your tattoos and if there's any meaning behind them?
A lot of them are more like, I would say, a memory or an experience. When I was a kid, we went to the Egyptian Museum in San Jose, and that was one of the things I just became like enthralled with. So like I have, you know, hieroglyphics. The first tattoo I got at 18 was like an Egyptian cat. I had a cat at the time who was, you know, my kind of like my little bud. Like I'd had her for a lot of years. Let's see. The one on my leg, like my leg piece, is kind of just a compilation. It started out with like one lotus flower I got at the coast. I think I was at the coast with my mom, and we just ended up getting tattoos. And then I decided to add to it, and I had a good friend who was a tattoo artist and did really good like watercolor work. So I just kind of, you know, told him what I wanted, and he drew something up. I think kind of my tattoo phase of life might be done. I might get something here and there a little, but I'm probably not going back for any big pieces.
Or is there you have any ideas for what those small things are?
So one that's kind of funny is I want to just get a little mustache on my fingers so I could like put it under my nose when I feel like, you know, things get too serious or quiet, and I can just like put my little mustache under my nose and make people laugh.
I gotcha. That's a good one.
Just a little silly one like that I'm probably going to do one day.
Alright. I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
That's a good one. Let's see here.
Pull up that good Spotify.
All right. So I'm thinking has to be like an Incubus song because they were like one of the bands I was just super into, and I would put like I went skydiving for the first time. So maybe like Drive.
Okay.
Gotta throw in some Zeppelin.
Okay.
Some Dancing Days.
Alright. Solid 3 picks.
I'd say the last one, I'm gonna say I Am the Fire by Hellstorm, who is one of my absolute favorite bands right now.
Hell yeah. Alright, a solid 3 picks to say the least. And you could, now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first. Then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Oh, that's a hard one. Like, I don't know who these days would like work for me. I don't know. Maybe like a Mila Kunis.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that one would work. They could fix her up to look similar to me.
Right. Alright, now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you in your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
That's a hard one to know who would play them. So definitely, like, there's my best friend Natalie. I'm thinking of the star who would play her, but I don't know her name.
Who was you thinking? What was she in?
Like in Hitch.
Hitched. Okay. Hold on. Getting out my Google machine.
Eva Mendes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do Eva Mendes as Natalie.
Okay.
You said 3 people?
Yes.
mean, like, it's hard because it's like the story going back so far, you know, like how far back to win. It's hard to pick out 3 people.
I mean, you could pick more than just Dree. I just limit it to Dree.
I like it. I'd say, like, my mom has to be in there.
Okay.
We'll throw Susan Sarandon in as my mama.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Say, I should probably throw the hubby in. So he's been around like since my wrestling career started, like day 1. He actually made it to my first student showcase. We literally had just met then, and he got his friends who were out at the bar to come watch me in my first wrestling match. So that was pretty cool. And then, so it's funny, his name, I don't know who would play him though. That's a very tough one.
I mean, we could leave it up to casting if you'd like.
Yeah, let's leave that one up to casting. I can't think of anybody who could play him.
Right. Right. And, you know, navigating that minefield of picking an actor to play your husband as well.
Yeah.
It's sounding like a great movie. A blockbuster, to say the least. And you could
Of course, you know, it has to be littered with, like, wrestlers, but,
of course.
you know.
And you could pre-order the tickets now.
Right.
Alright. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Oh, I love it. I love pineapple on anything.
So you're just pro pineapple in general?
Absolutely.
Alright. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Let's think. Spirit Pokemon. Maybe like a Charmander. I'm a fire sign.
Perfect. Love the OGs. Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
Like his acronym or
his acronym for the world was Doug.
I honestly cannot remember it right now. I know I've seen it, but I couldn't tell you.
Well, T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail. 'Cause a Doug can't spell.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
Oh, I love it.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
I mean, like, if there was, you know, money involved and somebody was paying me to wrestle a Rock, sure, why not?
Well, just for context, there's a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an odd man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
Oh my.
Yes. And he did not win that match either.
I've seen the one where a guy wrestles a blow-up doll.
That was either Kota Ibushi or Kenny Omega.
This one was, I thought it was in Japan. It was yeah. It's pretty funny.
Alright, on a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I feel like I'm going to be doing, probably back to making some wrestling gear, customs, and doing like markets and Renaissance fairs and a lot more costuming things.
Alright. And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off you as a pro wrestler?
There's a good match. I'd say with myself and Lexi Green is one that I know that people can find. And it was at a local indie show in Indiana.
And we can find that on YouTube?
Yes.
Perfect.
I know they use like IWTV as well, so there might be like a better copy over there.
Alright, well, if it is indeed on YouTube, I will put a link to it in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview. If you have IWTV, then definitely go check it out on there as well. But since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Sure.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
The Undertaker.
Worst wrestler.
Brock Lesnar.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Rhea.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Hellstorm.
Which song?
I Am the Fire.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is... Okay, finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
OG.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash, fruit or vegetable?
I thought it was a vegetable.
So you're going with fruit?
Vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit.
Like tomato.
Yes. I feel like you knew it, but you don't necessarily accept it as a fruit.
Nah, I put it in the vegetable soup, so it's a vegetable in my mind.
Well, you're a part of Squash Squad now, and that means a hell of a lot more.
Alright.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I like mine to be mostly Hubbard. Like, a little cheekage is cool, but I don't really want to see, like, anybody wearing, like, a full-on thong.
Alright, so...
Say a 1/4 inch of cheekage.
A 1/4 inch of cheekage.
Yes.
Spoken like a real gear maker. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No.
And as the correct
Not yet happened.
And as the correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Thank you. You have a good night. It was fun.
Could you once again tell us where we can find you on social media and your merchandise?
for Bashley Bones on Facebook or Bashley110 on Instagram.
And where can we find merchandise?
I currently don't have any. But if I get back to gear making, I'm definitely going to throw up a website, so just watch out for that.
Perfect. And you don't have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all her social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and CastBox, simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give her a damn follow. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and CastBox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Landon Hale, and join us every Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. And follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on Xthread and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Sure.
For our special guest, Bashley Bones, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.